have a case study presentation, also focusing on smart manufacturing. It will be delivered by Mr. Benroy Fernandez, the Principal Solutions Consultant at Azenshu Software, an international industrial expert with almost 20 years' experience. This important presentation, under the title Unlocking the Future of Smart Manufacturing, AI and Automation in ERP, which will develop the great importance of the artificial intelligence and automation in enterprise resource planning. To hear more, please welcome on stage Mr. Fernandez.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Benroy Fernandez, and it is truly a privilege and an honor for myself and my team to be here to speak to you today about what Azenshu can do to help and assist manufacturers reach their goals and deploy their quest for digital transformation. A little bit about myself. I've been for the last 20 years being consulting for intelligent business solutions, predominantly in the Middle East, but for the large part here in Saudi Arabia. Riyadh is where I grew up as well, so the city is, in fact, very special to me. One of the things that Azenshu does to provide the best solutions for smart manufacturers is we listen. We listen not just to the industry analysts like the Gartners and the IDCs of the world, but also to the users on the floor, on the shop floor. We listen to the production manager. We listen to the warehouse operators, the maintenance supervisors, the finance manager, the CEO who's responsible for business performance. And what we found is there are certain challenges and situations that are consistent across all of these businesses. I'd just like to walk through some of them. Well, first up, we see a major challenge companies are facing on with fulfillment. Ideal situation, 98, 99% is what you should be striving for. Anything below 90% is a huge opportunity for improvement. Companies are also struggling to optimize their production efficiency levels, and there's very high amounts of wastage during their production process. We hear very often that companies say that they're not coordinated, and we hear about situations where the factory on the shop floor is not coordinated with the back office. This leads to a lot of loss, a loss in materials, a loss in inventories, and a loss of time due to rework and so on. Reporting on the shop floor, another major challenge. It is so surprising, and I think it was Ms. Shireen that says that technology was moving much faster than people. It is surprising how many processes, even till today, are still done in a manual way, on paper or in data inputs. And the rest of them are largely about how can companies retain market share, still keep selling, continue to acquire customers, and at the same time maintain or protect their margins and maintain the quality levels that they strive for. It's a balancing act to maintain business performance, costs, and quality. So how can we help? Azenshu essentially is an end-to-end business management platform, an ERP, if you must. And James Morgan on the previous panel session was just asking the room, is everyone aware of what the ERP is? We've been doing this for the last 30 years, my colleague Rakesh was just telling you about. And during this journey, we've acquired so much of depth of capabilities within our core ERP system, taking it to the next level of smart manufacturing. So what is inside our ERP? Everything end-to-end in your organization, starting from sales, order management, quotation management, right through to bringing in new products into the system with production lifecycle management, integrated with categories, integrated with the digital ecosystem of logistics, back office operations of warehousing, inventory, finance, quality control, maintenance, and of course, planning. So here are some of the use cases that we talked about. And before we go further, I'd just like to emphasize two things that have been consistently been spoken about on the panel sessions and probably with everybody you have spoken with over the last 3 days in all of the stalls. And those are, I'd like to bring this up, the words optimization and automation. What I'd like to say to you is, in your quest for digital transformation in manufacturing, ERP is just one of the components that you must consider, obviously. But it is probably one of the most important components. Why? I think it was Engineer Abdulaziz that spoke. You might have the most sophisticated equipment. You might have the PLCs and the SCADAs and the sensors in place that collect data. But it ends at a certain point in the current situation. And what we need to get to is the availability of that data across the enterprise. So for example, if there is a breakdown or a leakage or downtime on any equipment, instantaneously a production manager is notified, a maintenance manager is notified, a warehouse manager is notified, and we need that collaboration to get into greater levels of manufacturing. So let's take by itself, one by one, different case studies, starting with planning. We can deliver to our customers an integrated business plan. And what that means is, with the power of artificial intelligence, our system can forecast you or generate a forecast on what you could expect to sell in the forthcoming periods, based on a trend and based on how you've been performing in the past, and a few other configurations that you wanted to consider. And on the back of that sales forecast, the system would generate a production plan. And on the back of that production plan, a supply plan. This ensures that materials could be requested for at the right time so that they're in your warehouse when it's needed for the production, so that the production is completed at the right time to meet your variable demand. That's an integrated business plan that we can deliver. Smart manufacturing, of course, we talked about IoTs, and if you come over to our stand in Hall 4, we've got a really cool example about this. And there were conversations earlier about machines having sensors that are constantly taking in readings and feeding that data into a repository of information. ERP consumes that data, keeps it with us, and uses it for real-time insights. I gave you an example of the machine downtime. But in a connected world, we need to have all of these technologies not working in silos, but working together with information flowing across, so that everybody in the enterprise is on the same page. And where something needs reaction time, it's tended for immediately to minimize loss, minimize rework, and eventually ensure that fulfillment is happening when the customer needs it. I've got an RPA example that we've adopted in quite a few cases. And this is particularly useful in some areas. We hear often from procurement people that say, hey, you know, our production relies on a lot of imports from overseas. What we struggle with is the visibility of when we can expect those materials in our store. The obvious challenges these days are supply chain disruptions and trade uncertainties. But with RPA, you can get your suppliers, whenever they send you an email with a PDF, let's say, for example, a shipment advice, that will automatically be available in your ERP system in Accenture with a shipment advice. So you have the visibility of when the stock will come in and can communicate that in real time to set the expectations with the customer. That's a great example of automation with RPA, and it can be used in multiple cases as well. And of course, on the subject of generative AI, well, let's take this in two parts. Let's start with conversational AI. Now, conversational AI is heavily consumerized at the moment, right? Almost everybody these days uses Siri or Alexa for personal use. But with Accenture ERP, we can bring conversational AI into your business. Let's use an example of a procurement person once again, right? He opens up an app, talks to the ERP and says, hey, for RFQ 1001, compare all of the suppliers' prices who have sent in their quotations. Compare their last quality with us over the last few months, and generate for me a scorecard suggesting which supplier I must pick. No running reports here, just conversation with your ERP. And we can go to the next level with that when you can get, through conversational AI, tasks that are done in the system with data being put in. I usually use the example of a salesman who's, let's say, in the car driving to a customer, and he's on the phone with the customer, and the customer is requesting for a quotation, right? Just by talking to your Azentio ERP, the salesman says, create a new quotation, add this item and this item, put in a 10% discount, and send it for approval. And when it's approved, send it to production. How efficient is this salesman going to be for your business? And equally important, how appreciative will that salesman's customer be for receiving the quotation just 1 or 2 minutes after they've had that conversation? It's very helpful for giving good customer service, and again, applicable to several areas of the business. Another example is more generative and prescriptive, where you can get, just by querying like you would ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or any of the other AI tools out there, you would convert or chat or type to your ERP like something like, based on my forecast, tell me what my price point should be to attain a certain revenue target for the end of the year. There is no running of reports here. There's not even a business intelligence dashboard. There's conversation with your ERP. You're basically getting insights from the system at the speed of your thought. If any of these use cases resonate with you or are interesting for you, do come over and see us. We are Azentio Middle East, as I said. We're based out of Singapore, carrying customers, approximately 1,000 customers across the globe. A huge portion of them are here in Saudi Arabia, in the United Arab Emirates, in the Middle East, and the region beyond. We're about 2,000 employees supporting these 1,000 customers. And the most important thing that I want to emphasize here is the number of years of experience that we have, over 30 years of experience. That means that it's not just the capability of our system, but we are supported by a team that have been with the company for 20 years. Rakesh, who just spoke, was with the company of 20 years, and so many other of my colleagues. An enormous wealth of knowledge and experience complements our offering to the customer that really is of good value to all manufacturers if they are in a transition towards digital transformation in manufacturing. My friends, if digitization is what you're after, we speak your language in manufacturing. We can take you to the cloud quicker and more agile than any others, and we are your ideal platform for innovation. Do come over and see us. We're in Hall 4, right across. And let's have some coffee and some conversation. And I really, really thank you just now. Bye-bye.